an iconic venue. Where stars rise and competition's flame burns bright. Where past greatness collides with horsepower. Next year, history meets possibility as racing returns to Southern California. NASCAR's biggest names, America's greatest stadium, an event made for Los Angeles, and a Coliseum built for legends.
Man, that's typical, isn't it? The moment I dunk on them for selling Daytona 2022 Clash tickets, when we all knew that they were going to go to the LA Coliseum for the Clash in 2022, NASCAR announces it mere hours later. Yes, I know, there's some great conspiracy. They coordinated everything on Fox and announced it as they felt they needed to, but the timing is funny nonetheless. So, NASCAR has, it's no secret that they have always kind of chased Hollywood, right? In fact, that has kind of been, I would say in a lot of ways, the modus operandi of why we've seen so many changes in NASCAR racing over, say, the past 15 to 20 years. They've always wanted a much more mainstream audience. And so this move to LA doesn't really surprise me very much for the Clash. Now, before I get into my opinion, I want to play some clips from NASCAR's Ben Kennedy because I do want to hear the official NASCAR, or I want you to hear the official NASCAR reasoning on moving this event from the traditional Daytona across the country to Los Angeles.
Yeah, really looking forward to it, and it'll be great to add it to the list. To your point, an iconic and historic venue. You think of the number of Olympics and Super Bowls that they've had here, the Rams, the Chargers, USC Trojans since 1923. So certainly an iconic and historic venue, and really looking forward to seeing NASCAR racing here. It's going to be special. We've been discussing the Clash for a while, and we've had it at the Oval for a number of years. To your point, we moved it to the road course this year. But really wanted to think outside the box as we thought about the Clash in the future, and seeing that's an exhibition event. We looked at a number of different places and locations that we could host it at, and ultimately narrowed it down to the LA Coliseum. I think the large fan base that we have here in Los Angeles, the largest that we actually have in the nation, paired with exciting racing and, being here in the downtown Los Angeles market, I think will be really special.
Okay, so I do have some thoughts on this. In fact, these are probably going to be much different thoughts than maybe you've heard elsewhere. That's why you come to my channel to hear about NASCAR, I guess. There's an interesting dichotomy here, because if you don't know what a dichotomy means, it's like two totally opposite things that should not be together but are. And what I mean by that is that this is, NASCAR doing the kind of, or following kind of the Brian France strategy of trying to mainstream NASCAR. But in the way that it's being done, it's almost a very traditional way. Going to a college football stadium and building a temporary short track in the middle is going to produce the type of racing that NASCAR fans have pined and asked for the longest time. They're just doing it in a place that NASCAR's fan base really isn't or is not. Not saying they won't travel to this. I think, I heard Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, and I bet you never thought you'd hear those names on this channel, talking about this on the college football program that Fox Sports runs, and they mentioned like 100,000 people could fill that stadium. I'm not sure, is that actually the stadium capacity of the LA Coliseum? If it is, I'd be very surprised to see 100,000 people show up, but I think you could probably get more people at the LA Coliseum, certainly for the first year of this, with the curiosity that this is going to generate, versus whatever you get for the Clash. Did that even look like there were any people there last year at the Clash or the year before, even in pre-COVID times? I don't know. Certainly, I think it's definitely going to be a better race. It's going to produce what NASCAR's fans and NASCAR themselves, I think, want to see in an exhibition race. Because let's be honest, I don't want to pretend like I'm going to be super traditionalist, because I have said on this channel probably the last 2 or 3 years that the Clash really needed to change, because what we were seeing was essentially a test session for the Daytona 500. When they moved it to the road course, surprise, surprise, it became a better show. But it was never really that good of a show, and the road course race is just that, the road course, or a road course, and there's plenty of those now on the schedule. If you have a road course fix, you're going to have it taken care of and satisfied now in NASCAR. So you don't necessarily have to do it before the Daytona 500. Now, yes, I think about this a lot, because it's like, okay, it's not traditional, yes, but you are going to get beaten and banging. You are going to get tempers flaring. It's disappointing for sure as a traditional fan, and I'm sure there's a lot of traditional fans watching this, realizing the history of the Busch Clash at the Daytona International Speedway right before the Daytona 500, and really what that race used to mean. Is it going to have the same? Well, it doesn't have this. It probably hasn't had the same meaning for probably 20 years. I mean, again, this is a very modern NASCAR move, but I think it's not a terrible move. We're going to have to see. I mean, we're not going to be able to judge it on year one. I guess I could say that, because if it does become a tradition, NASCAR has won, because currently the Clash as it was running was, in my opinion, a dying tradition. It was one that was kind of going through the motions. But that also kind of leads me to my next point, which is Speed Weeks and the traditionalism that's being lost for Speed Weeks. It is now less than a week. The Daytona 500, whether you want to hear this or not, and I hate it when I give Daytona 500 opinions, because everybody compares it to the other 500-mile race when I say that. But to me, I look at what's been happening with Speed Weeks, the shortening of it, the fewer amount of races, the condensing of it. At some point, the Daytona 500 is going to feel like just some other race, especially considering, if the race team alliance gets what they want and there's no extra entries past a full field, whatever a full field ends up being years from now, the duels will not matter to the point where they probably won't be run anymore, and you may end up seeing Daytona being a 3-day or maybe a 2-day show, which is just crazy to me. And I certainly think it hurts the prestige of the event. Now, special events like the Clash, I mean, it wouldn't be the first event that we loved in the past to leave Speed Weeks in Daytona. You think about IROC, you think about Goody's Dash, you think about, the ARCA race used to be significantly better. Qualifying races used to mean something. Pole qualifying, really, in a lot of ways. I mean, it's different now anyway, because it's at night versus when it used to be in the day. There's a lot of change happening, and I think that's going to be the theme, and I'm going to continue to mention that in all of my NASCAR videos from now on. Change is happening, and if you like the current NASCAR product, or you like elements of the current NASCAR product, appreciate it, because it is going to be very, very different, and especially when that TV deal hits. I'm telling you, man, this is going to be one of the most significant things that's ever happened in NASCAR when the new TV deal is set, because you're going to have a totally different economy for NASCAR. And so, while the getting's good, try things like the LA Coliseum, because if this is successful, you can always go back to Daytona, but in 2026, after the new TV contract, are you going to have the cash on hand to go to the LA Coliseum? Probably not. I think it's going to be a good race, honestly. I think it's going to be fun. Again, it's disappointing from a traditionalist standpoint, but has NASCAR really been the bastion of traditional automobile racing ever recently? So I think if you're watching NASCAR at this point, I think you're going to get what you want to watch. And, if you're a traditionalist, you're probably only going to watch the Daytona 500 anyway. And in a lot of ways, you're probably only doing that out of obligation. So this probably doesn't affect you all that much. I think this is a good move for NASCAR in the short term. We'll see what it does in the long term. But I don't think there are really any long-term side effects of this outside of, kind of reducing the importance of Daytona in February and Speed Week. But outside of that, I think it's going to be fun. It'll be also, this is kind of an added bonus to running the Clash at such a small short track, is that your first race with the next-gen cars is almost certainly going to be a safe one, because the impacts, if there is still a concern about that, won't be nearly as hard at a Coliseum versus the Daytona 500. So I guess it's a win-win-win at the moment for NASCAR. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. 11 a.m., the schedule is officially unveiled for the Cup Series. I'll have a video on that. And I'll probably also talk about racers' educated guess at the IndyCar schedule as well, because while it won't be as spicy as last year, I still have some thoughts, and I think you'll want to hear them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.